Okay, this is my first time using the Bernat Blanket Extra. It is really large, jumbo yarn. It is considered a 7 weight, and they recommend, I've got a glare on there, sorry, 15 millimeter hook. I didn't have one, I used a 16 millimeter, and that worked out just fine. Probably could go a little smaller if you wanted to. I'm not used to using a hook that large. This is vintage white and crimson red. There are 97 yards, which doesn't sound like much, but let me show you next to the Bernat Forever Fleece, which is a 6 weight, and it has 194 yards. Let's see, move that around. You can see the difference, even though this has a lot more yardage because it's thinner, and it's a 6 weight. This is a 7. Huge. So what's better than chunky yarn? Jumbo yarn. I am loving the blanket. You can make it in any colors. I'm making it in kind of traditional vintage looking Christmas colors, holiday colors. The green is called smoky green. It's gorgeous. I got these on Amazon. I'll leave a link. This one was more expensive than the others, and you might be able to find it on walmart.com. Less expensive. I just didn't check it out. I was able to get it the next day, and I wanted to get it the next day. All right, so we'll get started. All right, so for this particular blanket, chain any number that's a multiple of 2 plus one more chain. On my blanket, I chained 51 because each chain is measuring close to an inch. And without the border, it's measuring almost 49 inches wide. A standard throw is 50 inches wide by 60 inches long. I'll leave a link for, I have a free PDF downloadable chart you can have for all standard blanket sizes, which goes anywhere from stroller all the way up to a king size. Okay, so I'm starting with red. Our pattern will be 1 row of red, 2 rows of the vintage white, 1 row of green, 2 rows of vintage white, 1 row of red, and it will continue to alternate like that. So let's come into the second chain from the hook, not this one, but this one. You don't have to go into the back bump. This is nice and thick and it won't leave any gaps or holes. So let's come in with a single crochet. We're just going to alternate. There's your single crochet. Double crochet in the next. It will just be alternating single crochet and double crochet. I'm really slow with this particular hook. It's a plastic hook. It doesn't glide very well. It's a 16 millimeter. It was just the closest that I had to what they recommended. They recommend 15 millimeter. So again, single crochet, because that's all it is a single crochet followed by a double crochet in the next chain. Make sure you're going into the next chain. They kind of pull over and open up. I have to use my thumb a lot with this particular hook. See how thick that already is? That's the part that the double crochets will push forward, and they'll be like great big bumps. Give you a lot of texture. So if I forget where I am, the single crochet is just a lot smaller. Double crochet is really big and thick and bulky. I want to make sure that I don't go into that same chain. That can be really easy to do. So the next chain is just a single crochet. So continue across your row, just keep alternating. 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet, 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet. I'll meet you at the end of the row. When you get to your last stitch, don't complete the stitch. I'll show you what I mean because we're going to be changing over to the vintage white. All right, I'm at my last chain of my row. Since I started with 15, I end up with 14 stitches, which means I started, oops, I don't want to do that. I started with a single crochet, so I'll end with a double crochet, because if you think about it in pairs, you start with 2 single double, and you continue down and you end up with single double. So my very last stitch, and don't let this confuse you, it's bigger than normal. That was just your slip knot. So we're going to finish on a double. Start your double, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, pull that loop up, drop your yarn, this will be your color A, drop it. You're going to cut it, leave yourself a nice long tail for weaving in. I'm not going to cut it because I'm just doing a sample size, and I don't want to waste my yarn because I'm going to use it for the blanket. All right, so we're going to switch over to the vintage white. Give yourself a really nice long tail. I would say, for me, it's a little bit longer than my hook, because I want to use part of it in my chain 1. So you, in case you didn't know, just give yourself a loop, pull it through the final 2 loops of that double crochet. You've just completed your double crochet with your color B. Now, you don't have to do it this way, but I like to. Let's see if I can get rid of some of this glare, sorry. There we go. Ooh, that's much better. You can just chain as normal, but I like to get that tail in there. It makes it bulky, makes it a little harder to pull through, but see how it just kind of locks it in? That's why I like to do that. So it's easy from here. It's really easy. The only thing you have to remember is changing colors. Make sure that you have the alternating red, 2 rows of the white, 2 rows, or 1 row of green, 2 rows of the white. I don't think you'll have any trouble with that. And then this part of the pattern is really easy. Let me move that tail to the back. We ended with a double crochet. Here's the top of our double crochet. So every double crochet will now get a single crochet in the top. You're going to have 2 loops there. Don't let that confuse you. That's just part of where you put the tail in with your chain. So complete a single crochet. We put that into the top of our double crochet. Next is a single crochet. You can find it by kind of pulling it apart, and there's a V. So that gets a double crochet. Single crochet gets a double crochet. I'm not used to going quite this slow. I'm not very fast, but this really goes slow. However, because it's so thick, that's just the 2nd row. It really works up quickly. So here's your double crochet. You can tell it's really thick and bulky. That's what gives you your nice texture. All those double crochets will push forward. So find the top of your double crochet. Every double crochet gets a single crochet. Now they're buddies. All right, so the next is a single crochet. Kind of pull it apart, find that V. See that? And that gets a double crochet because it's a single crochet. I'm going too slow for you. It's quite possible. Just fast forward. There's the top of your double crochet. It's easy to find. If you get lost, can't remember which stitch you did last, double crochet is super easy to find because it's really thick, and then the single crochet is just much smaller. So into the double crochet, we get a single crochet. I already know I'm going to do a double crochet into my next single. single into the double. Oh, just make yourself up a little song. Double into the single. Nice thick double there. So it gets a single. Almost to the end of my row. You have lots more chains to go, or stitches to go. I've been working on mine this morning and it's coming along very, very quickly. And it's just a pleasure to work with, besides the fact that this hook is a little slow. Remember, just find your V. Double crochet. And yours is going to be much, much wider, but it should be about close to as wide as your initial chain row was. All right, here's a double crochet, so that gets a single. And the single, the very last, which was our first stitch to begin with, gets a double. Now, because we're doing 2 rows of the vintage white, just chain 1. I'm going to push all those. When I'm all finished, I'll push all the double crochets forward. I want to show you what happens. They alternate. You'll have one here and then one on either side, and then the same thing will happen in the next row. You'll have on either side of that. It just ends up being so pretty. So sorry, I just hit my camera. All right, so just chain 1 turn, repeat. Every row is a repeat, just single in the double, double in the single. Whatever you ended up with last, if it's a single, a double goes in it. If it's a double, a single goes in it. I'll meet you at the end of this row because we're going to switch over to the smoky green. Beautiful color. Final stitch will be a double crochet because this is a single crochet. Now, if you aren't really sure, the double crochet has this horizontal bar closer to the bottom stitch. This looks more like just a big V. So because that's a single crochet, we're going to start, and remember we put the tail in with the chain, so it's pretty bulky. We're going to start a double crochet to go in that single crochet. Pull your loops up. Oops. Make sure. Yep, I want to make sure I didn't get that tail in there. Make sure you have your working yarn. Pull through the first 2 loops. Pull your loops up. You're going to cut that. The only way that it would really work for you to carry your yarn is if you had an even number of rows, which you could do if you wanted to. What I have found with mine, with the number of chains that I made, 1 skein will get me 8 rows. 1, 2, I believe. I'll put that in the description. I am not remembering at the moment if it's 8 double rows. I believe it is, or 4 double rows. I'm not sure. All right, I'm excited because I get to change color. I like changing color. Oh, I just love this smoky green. It's a good name for it. It's on the darker side. Oh, it's just really pretty. Leave yourself a long tail. There's a loop. And complete your double crochet. Let's pull that kind of tight there. Again, you don't have to include the tail if you don't want to. If it just seems too bulky to you, you don't need to do that. I just like to. Everybody has their preferences. People might tell you, oh, you're holding that hook wrong, or you're holding your yarn wrong. No, you're not. You're crocheting. It's yours. You do what you want. Okay, so that was a double crochet. If I'm not sure, I can see that there's a single crochet next to it and a double crochet after that. So let's go into the top of that double crochet with a single crochet. I just want to show you what it looks like with the color change. All right, single. Next one is a single, so we're going to put a double. Single gets a double and a double gets a single. Sorry, I won't sing anymore. It's okay when I'm all by myself. All right, double gets a single. Single. You know it's a single because you have the V there. Kind of looks like Santa's beard and mustache. And the next double gets a single. Single. It's double. Just want you to see how that looks. Isn't that pretty? Now, the single rows in between the double rows are going to, and they'll still have the puffy parts, but they're going to look more like a zigzag line, and it just ends up looking really pretty. I like it a lot. So continue with that pattern. One row red, 2 rows white, 1 row green, 2 rows white, 1 row red. I think you have it. You can always refer to the written pattern, which I'll leave a link for. It's on my website at www.i-crochet.com. And I will meet you back here when I'm ready to attempt the border. Sometimes when I say I'm going to make a border, I end up abandoning that idea, and that may happen. I'm hoping it works out, but as you can see, this would look just fine, lovely without a border. So once you have all your ends woven in. All right, I'll meet you back here whenever I have mine at the desired length, which should be somewhere close to 60 inches. All right, the border is working out great. I'm using Bernat Sheepy, and all I've done, I started in the corner and I tried lots of different stitches, and what worked best to get this look is 3 half double crochets in each stitch, and it makes it nice and thick. You could go around with another row if you wanted to. I don't think you need to. You can see the reason I started with one of the colors other than white and ended it with green, was so that this would show up more. It's almost identical to this vintage white. It is called, hang on, Cottontail. Very, very light, off-white, antique white, vintage white. But this is called Cottontail. You can see it's very, very close to that color. I love it. I've never made a border like this before. I thought it would work out really, really well. So I'm going to show you on a sample size how to do that. I did want to mention I ended up with 46 rows total on the blanket I made with the Christmas colors, and 30 rows of that are in the vintage white. And it does, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 rows of the vintage white is about 1 skein. So it did take almost all of 4 skeins in that color. The others only took 1 skein a little bit over one skein. If you didn't want to go quite as long, you could get away with one skein. But I do have enough left. They come in a 2-pack, and I have enough left to make, I think, make a stocking or a pillow. I'm not sure. I'm going to make something with it. I wanted you to see also what it looks like. Let me pull this away. In just one color. And boy, does that go fast when you don't have to change colors. And you also don't have to weave in any ends. So I want to show you, again, I have the Bernat Sheepy. This yarn is the easiest I've ever had to find the center pull. It's super, super simple. Doesn't matter where you start, any corner. I'm not going to fasten off because this is just a sample and I don't want to waste my yarn. All right, so I'll start in the bottom corner here of our very first row, our first chain row. Just make yourself a slip stitch or join however you want to. I did switch over to a 10 millimeter here. You could go smaller if you wanted to. This seemed to work out really well. Just find a corner space. Let's see, I want to make sure I'm not just working into that slip knot. There we go. So bring it through. A little slip stitch there. Now on that very same stitch, 3 half double crochet, nice and loose, because that's what makes it look so nice and fluffy and furry. So in that same stitch, there's 2. Just have 3 loops on your hook, pull through all of them, yarn over, same stitch, pull through. You really do have 3 loops. It's hard to see because they're so furry. So that was 3. And while it seems like that would start making it look like a ruffle, it does not. I tried several different types of stitches and several different numbers of stitches, and this is what worked for me. So the next stitch, nice and loose, 3 half doubles. 1, 2, 3. Oops, that one went a little tight. Let me pull my yarn out. It is a little bit hard to find the last stitch you were on in the sheepy because it's like a string. You have to find that string. So how many did I have? 1, 2. Go back and do my third. Next stitch. One, 2, 3. Oops. See how fuzzy that's getting? Isn't that pretty? It looks great without a border. You do not have to worry about a border. I just really wanted to try this, and I love it, and I will be doing this again. 1, 2, 3. I just want to take you to the corner. Just find your stitch. 1, 2. I am keeping these really, really loose. See how big I made my yarn over? Pull it through. Get that loop up there. 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Next. 1. This sheepy yarn is great because it doesn't show any flaws, any mistakes you made. It's all covered up. Also, this jumbo yarn, the Bernat Blanket Extra, when you tie a knot, make sure it's nice and tight. It's not going to come loose. Once it doesn't come loose, it, it just doesn't show up in the yarn because it's so thick you can hide it. Well, let's find our next stitch. I want to go in the whole stitch. There. Sometimes I have to feel around with this big yarn. 2 and 3. Next. 1, 2, 3. You don't have to count how many stitches you have. It's not going to make a huge difference at the top and the bottom. You can see why I used 3. It kind of fills in that gap in the middle. Get you 2 and around the corner there. 1, 2, 3. Next one. Keep it nice and loose. 1, 2, 3. Boy, this goes a lot smoother and faster than with that big plastic hook. I tried to make the stitches with, this was the biggest metal hook I had, and yeah, that didn't work out. So I am sure there are hooks that would move through more smoothly. I did have some wooden ones, but they didn't grab the yarn quite well enough. Let me know if you know of any really large hooks that work out well. All right. Again, if you like this pattern, this video, please give me a thumbs up. It helps my channel to grow. If you have not subscribed, please do. That also helps my channel. If you have subscribed, I really appreciate it. If you hit the notification button, you'll get notified every time I put out a new pattern, which is at least once a week right now. 1, 2, 3. We're almost to the corner. 1, 2, 3. Obviously, you can fast forward. If I'm going too slow for you, you can pause. If I'm going too fast, you can mute if you would rather just watch. So here we are at the corner. 1, 2, 3. Normally, I would do another 3 in the corner. Usually you do more stitches in the corner to come around. The next stitch is really close, so I just didn't bother. And it worked out fine. But if you want to, you can. It'll just make it a little fluffier at the corner. 1, 2, 3. Just coming up the side is a little different. You'll have some bigger holes and some smaller, depending on if you were on a single crochet or double crochet. So just keep finding your next stitches. There's nothing written in stone. This part of it is just finding what looks good. If you get a few stitches down and you think it looks a little uneven, just take those stitches out and try again. Crochet is a lot of trial and error. Let's see here. I'm not sure if I want to go here or if I want to just cross over. So I'm going to cross over and see how that looks. Keep it loose. One. Yes, I'm talking to you and to myself. Keep it loose, Debbie. Let's see. I'm good with that. So continue around. And when you reach your last, or actually your first half double, you'll have 3 half doubles here. Just find it and join with a slip stitch and fasten off, and that is it. But look how pretty that looks in that smoky green. The screen is not really showing it. It's more this color. So a solid color would be just gorgeous. I just wanted to do the vintage Christmas colors, and I'll show you a picture of it when I'm done with the whole border on the other one as well. Oh, I just love it. You won't even believe how thick this is. It does shed a little bit, not terribly. It seemed, for some reason, the red seemed to shed more than the other colors. Look at that. Oh, oh, so thick and cushy. Cold winter night. That's what you want. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you made it or if you're going to make it, what colors you're going to use. I will leave links for the yarn, both kinds of yarn. Sometimes it's on sale. If you order it through my link, I get a small commission at no extra charge to you. If it is not on sale on Amazon, check with Walmart.com. Sometimes they have a better price, sometimes they don't. Sometimes Amazon has the better price. And again, I will never put a link to anything that I haven't personally used and recommend and really like. All right, enjoy. Leave me a comment. Thanks. All right, just a quick note. When you go to weave in your ends, you can use a big tapestry needle, one with a large hole, and that will work. Let's see. It's not terribly difficult to get it through. So you can weave in and out just up and down like you normally would. It's a little hard to get through just because of the bulk of the yarn. The other thing you can do is use a smaller hook. Excuse me, I went down to an 8mm. You could go even smaller. I'm just going underneath these loops. I'm going to grab this, but give yourself a good bit of yarn. If you do it too tightly right there, it's really hard to pull through. Just kind of wiggle it. Make sure you have a hold of it. There. And when you get it through, just take it off the hook. Pull it through. And go back the other way. Same thing. And then just a little bit more a third time, just to make sure. Be very, very careful when you go to cut your yarn that you don't cut your loops. If you need to, put your fingers between. You want to make sure that you don't cut your loops, because that would be very, very sad to get this far in your blanket and cut one of your loops. All right, so either way, use a needle with a nice big eye or the smaller hook. Just make sure when you start out you give yourself a good big loop to come through. And it seems to stay in place very well. All right. Okay, this is without the border. It looks really, really nice. This is with the furry border with the Bernat sheepy yarn. It's really, really thick and warm, and yet not too terribly heavy. It is reversible. I just wanted you to see how thick it is when you fold it up. So this is without a border. If you use just one color, works up very quickly. And this is just with the furry border. It's faux fur, of course.